For the July 2025 episode of Speak Out and Play, I will discuss my view on keeping up with the Joneses in terms of buying games, cover the latest Kickstarter for DVG, Warfighter War and Warfighter's Corner, provide details to the latest expansion from Vento Nuovo Games in the Works, and give you the coming attractions for August 2025, all on Speak Out and Play. Hello and welcome to the July 2025 episode of Speak Out and Play. Thank you for listening. It has been the not-so-best of times and not-so-worst of times here at my domicile in Oklahoma. On the one hand, we have had a near-record rain amount fall in the first part of July, and now that summer has decided to show up, with my brush mower just out of the shop, the property is looking rather ragged and abandoned. But then again, getting out in the 100-degree heat to mow when I finally get the mower back is not a welcoming proposition either. In other words, welcome to summer in Oklahoma. On the game front, it continues to be a quiet summer. At least for this podcast, I can tell you two things that I could not explain last month. But before I get into that, here is the main topic for this month's podcast of Speak Out and Play. One of the challenges for all gamers, no matter the field, is keeping up with all the latest releases. It seems that in wargaming, much like all the hobby board game industry, it's about the latest thing, the new hotness, the focus on what is coming up rather than what we already have. Now, that makes sense since the desire to own something we do not have is normally greater than finding out more things about what we do have. Unfortunately, at least for me, that means the constant battle to determine which new games I will cover on the channel. Now, I've been lucky in that the Warfighter series is constantly being updated, so I will always have new material on an old favorite to make videos from. However, the conflict for me is that I produce at least one video per week, and even with all the variations of Warfighter, that's just too many videos for one subject. I mean, a video every week on Warfighter? Yeah, I'm sure you all would love that too, wouldn't you? I remember back in the pre-internet days, yes, all those many years ago, and I'm sure it still happens today, that radio stations will change their formats. And occasionally a radio station will change their format to a singular artist or group, such as a radio station dedicated to Elvis or the Beatles. At first, the station experiences a jump in the ratings due to the novelty factor, but that fades over time. And normally after a short amount of time, like maybe a year or two, the station changes formats again to something that reaches a broader audience. So, getting back to gaming, in keeping up with the Joneses, the challenge is finding a new game system that has both longevity and freshness, which is a rather difficult combination. And because the interest can vary for reasons that none of us fully understand. In other words, we've met people, and we may be the very people, who believe that they have found the perfect game system and can't wait to dive in. We pore over the rules, play the scenarios, dive into the campaign games, purchase the expansions, and maybe play it for the rest of our lives, or maybe we'll play it for the next 10 minutes. Most people will wind up somewhere in between. And that's the rub. A hobby for a lifetime or a hobby for an afternoon, with so many falling in between. The interest for what is new and not yet available is going to be much higher than what you have in finding out what it is about the game that you have not discovered before. Now, in translating this to my channel, in addition to Warfighter, I have created several videos on Upfront and Gunslinger. Both games were created by Avalon Hill, and they were released fairly close to each other in the early 80s. I believe Gunslinger came out a year or two before Upfront. I'd have to go and look, but it's somewhere around that time. I know that Upfront was released in 1982, and I believe Gunslinger was released in either 80 or 81. Anywho, they both share the design philosophy of their times. With the company, Avalon Hill, producing fewer games, the rule books were rather extensive, and while Upfront has only a few optional rules, Gunslinger is loaded with them. I remember as a kid reading The General and seeing numerous variants published for Avalon Hill Games. Even games like Kremlin, which I know many of you love so much when I make a video about that, given how popular multiplayer games are to wargamers. Snark. But anyway, Avalon Hill stood in stark contrast to SPI at the time, because Avalon Hill took their time to develop a game, and SPI was releasing one game after another. Now, according to my counting of it, SPI created over 400 games in just 13 years. That represents more of the new hotness that we see today, especially with so many more game companies that are out there. And yes, SPI would often print errata, updates, and variants in magazines such as Strategy and Tactics or Moves, but their company was more about getting out new games faster than it was to make a lot out of a single game. Not always true. I know that you people can come up with examples of games that were constantly updated and were really built to last, but for the most part, when they put out a game, they kind of wiped their hands and then went on to the next game. Speaking for myself, I fall into the category of trying to get the most out of each game. Now, that's only because, or at least maybe because, I have a YouTube channel that I require myself to post content regularly, once a week. So it's easier and cheaper for me to create several videos on one game rather than purchase many games and make one video each. All things considered, even if I only play a game a few times and do nothing else with it, the game basically pays for itself over and over again. Of course, that does depend on what I paid for it, but even if I never liked it, I can always sell it and make something back, I hope. And now that I've come full circle, with a few side destinations out of the way, how important is it to keep up with the Joneses in terms of your game collection? Are you the type of gamer that is always searching for the next big thing? Or are you the gamer that wants to make the game they own the next big thing? Or is your motivation something different? Or is it both? Or neither? I don't know. And with that out of the way, let's see what's happening in Warfighter Corner. Of course, just a couple of days after I created and posted last month's podcast, I was given the opportunity to create a Kickstarter video for DVG's latest game, Warfighter War. And while it's been a while, I always like saying that, and while it's been a while since I have created a Kickstarter video for DVG, it has given me the opportunity to use my new camera and send them a 4K video. So I hope they enjoyed the results. And my goal is to continue to learn and get better in terms of making and editing videos for the future. I am practicing that right now with the videos that I'm putting together. Anyway, I have covered the game in previous podcasts, but of course that's not going to stop me from covering it again because, hey, I've got a short memory, and instead of you having to fumble back into the podcast where I talked about it before, I'll just go ahead and give you a recap of what the game is about right now. What we have is a game that is strategic level, with every card representing a battalion, brigade, or division. Now, the rules themselves are essentially the same as the standard Warfighter tactical game, but there are some changes, naturally, because the area is strategic instead of tactical. There is a new sequence of play, which has the I go, you go system. A player unit performs all their actions, then one hostile unit does the same. Then it's back to the next player unit, and then back to the hostile, and so forth until the turn ends. Each turn begins with an environment and or exhaustion check, followed by the action of the player, which includes attack, move, discard, and draw, remove a vulnerable marker, and regain supply. Once you have done that, the hostile player on its turn can move and attack, and then the sequence goes back to the player for their next unit. When all actions are exhausted, retain cost may be paid, reinforcement, and supply. Then it becomes a new turn. The current plan is to release a single core game that includes several different expansions, which you can see on the Kickstarter page, and they will cover different nations in the European theater. Now, some of the cards that I had gotten a hold of included the U.S. Army divisions, the German Infantry Division, and location cards, along with missions and objective cards. And it was really, kind of familiar to me, at least in terms of it looked a lot like the Warfighter tactical games that I had played before. So the similarities are many. Now, a few new details include a square icon for unit cards, which represent their supply stat or number of supplies that they start the game with. Player units can gain supplies using cards such as convoys, while hostiles gain supply based on the mission card and support hostiles such as the supply hub. The supply notation denotes the effect units gain by expending a supply. If the notation reads, for example, supply +1 hit, then if the unit succeeds in scoring a hit on its attack, it can add one more per supply point expended. So that means if you score a hit and you add a supply, you get another hit. Both player and hostiles use the same supply system. In addition, hostiles have 2 actions per turn, just like players. The 2 actions allow hostiles to move closer and then attack using separate actions, or use both actions to move towards the player unit, or both actions to attack a player unit. The text on the hostile attack chart for their card will show their preferred target type. They will move towards that unit, that type of unit, until in range and then attack. If they are still out of range of their preferred target type, they are free to choose to attack another unit that's in range. As if they weren't bad enough in Warfighter Tactical, now they become worse in Warfighter War. Thank you very much, DVG. Now, the Warfighter War Kickstarter is going on as this podcast has been published, and it will conclude, at least by my calculations, on August 7th. And a great part is that DVG has posted several new videos that explain the different aspects of the game on their YouTube channel. Look up the DVG YouTube channel, and then you'll see a bunch of videos that explain the game. So I'm looking forward to pouring through all that, and of course getting the game, which probably will come out next year at some point. Now, in addition to the Warfighter War Kickstarter, I have completed all the videos for Warfighter Week running through the end of December 2026. Yep. They have been shot, edited, completed, uploaded, and scheduled. But, of course, you're only going to see them on the second Wednesday of each month. So you got to wait. There's no binge watching on my channel, except for videos that I've already published. I'm not going to post them all at once. So they come out on the second Wednesday of each month. And that will include one unboxing video and then another video that covers either Warfighter 29, new rules, or missions and the like. And that is the update for Warfighter Corner. Now let's check out what's in the works for the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel when it comes to games outside the Warfighter system. In my last podcast, I hinted that I was receiving a Kickstarter in the mail, but I wasn't sure what it was. Well, of course, after I completed the podcast and scheduled it, the new expansion arrived, and it was for the Moscow 41 war game by Vento Nuovo Games. Now, I've created a video for the expansion, but I will verbally unbox it for you right now. The expansion covers a 40-page rulebook, which also contains a history of wargaming, the parameters of the expansion in terms of what Moscow 41 offers, and the new rules the expansion provides and how they apply to the campaigns in the game. A strategic map of the area covered by Moscow 41 is also presented, along with a few stickers and blocks for new units the expansion introduces. There are also new bags for both German and Soviet forces, and markers for both sides of the conflict as well. There are also blocks that you can put the stickers on, but there's not that many of them. There's relatively few. The video that I created for the expansion is probably going to be one of the most visually boring I have ever made, mostly because it all focuses on the rulebook itself and the new rules it brings to Moscow 41. So in other words, it's a video about the rulebook. But having said that, the rulebook is what the expansion is all about, providing a new strategic option for players of Moscow 41 to incorporate into their game. Now, whether there will be future expansions that will include Kiev 41 and Leningrad 41, I cannot say. What I can say is Vento Nuovo Games is currently focusing on their current line of products with new expansions, such as the one I just mentioned, and along with recent ones for the Black Swan and Orange Swan games that cover World War II on a strategic level. Now, apart from finishing out the Week 1 videos for the remainder of the year, the next step will be to create all the rules videos for Week 3 of next year. Now, I've already gone over the games that will mostly make up the videos for next year, so I'm not going to go through that again. Suffice to say that if you see a game presented on the first week of the month, such as Dune, War for Arrakis, you will see at least a couple more videos of that game in the upcoming months. The one stumbling block that I have run into in terms of video production is the same one that I have every year, which is summertime in Oklahoma. And that's because the studio is out in my garage, and the garage has no air conditioning. So I'm rather limited as to when I can shoot videos. So if I wake up at 4 in the morning, I can go out and shoot video. But if I don't wake up at 4 in the morning, which is, I would say, most days, I normally shut down video production for July and August and hope that September brings temperatures under 95 degrees so I can start shooting videos again. I may, operative word may, have to purchase a portable air conditioner, as the large fan with 2 frozen ice bottles trick doesn't work all that well, at least for me, but I will see about that expenditure. You know, if I have a couple $100, I just might do it. You never know. On the YouTube channel front, I have purchased a few odds and ends, which I won't bore you with, but I did purchase a new lens for my old camera, the trusty Canon SL2, which has served me so well since the beginning of this channel back in April of 2019, and whose videos you will continue to see until the end of the year. I have switched all my production to the Canon R8, which is a 4K camera, but my old trusty SL2 is still going strong, and anyway, I may use it from time to time. It'll definitely be a backup camera for my channel. So, my Canon R8 is creating 4K videos for the channel, but I'm not going to abandon the SL2 just yet. It will be the backup camera, but it will also, because it has the same sensor, I mean, this is the amazing thing. It's got the same megapixel sensor, albeit a crop version, so it can take the same quality of photographs that the R8 can do. So if I add more photographs, which I am planning to do for my thumbnails and stuff like that, that'll probably be, I can use the SL2 for that. Now, that doesn't mean a whole lot for Speak Out and Play. I've picked up a new hobby, which is, as I hinted at with the new camera purchase I got, which is photography. And I'm not going to bore you with the details of that. But I have purchased better lenses for my cameras, so I am diving into that aspect of it. How that will affect Speak Out and Play or Seek Out and Play, that remains to be seen. But anyway, with all that said and done, let's see what videos are coming up on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel for August 2025. For the first week of August 2025, Seek Out and Play presents a new expansion for Moscow 41 by Vento Nuovo Games. It includes a 40-page rulebook which covers the parameters of the expansion, a strategic map of the area covered by the Moscow 41 game, stickers and blocks for new units the expansion introduces, new bags for both the German and Soviet forces, and markers, also for both sides of the conflict. For the second week in August 2025, Seek Out and Play presents 2 videos for Warfighter Week. The first is an unboxing of Warfighter World War II expansion number 74, The Battle of Damascus. In the video, you will see the contents, which include the Free French soldiers, their weapons, sitrep cards, missions, objectives, locations, and the Vichy French hostiles. The second video covers how close quarters combat works in Warfighter. The video goes through the keyword, including examples that explain how it applies to standard hostiles, along with hostiles that have more than one reticle. For the third Wednesday of August 2025, Seek Out and Play presents the National Special Rules for Britannia. This covers the Dual Britannia option and explains the different rules presented, starting with King Arthur and his cavalry, the nations of the Scots, Irish, Welsh, Saxons, and Utes, Hadrian's Wall, Bamburgh and Dumbarton fortresses, and the Boers. Check out more videos when you subscribe to the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. In addition, there is a monthly Speak Out and Play podcast, which you can find on Buzzsprout and Spotify. For just $2 per month, you can support the channel by becoming a Patreon member and see the videos and podcast 48 to 72 hours in advance. At least one new video is released every week on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel, so I will see you next Wednesday. And that's it for the July 2025 episode of Speak Out and Play. Thank you for listening. Next month's podcast will be presented in audio form on Buzzsprout and Spotify on Monday, August 25th, and the video version will come out on Wednesday, August 27th, on my YouTube channel. A new video comes out each week on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel, so I will see you next Wednesday. And if you see Sally, bring her all the way home.